I'm here because I had an irreversible heart condition and was supposed to die without surgery, is what the cardiologist 3 separate ones told me. And I learned a secret, and I never had heart surgery. I've never taken the meds I was supposed to take the rest of my life. And I literally, I say I loosely, my heart condition was completely reversed. And if that was applicable to any health condition you have, for anybody, raise your hand if you'd like to know what that is. Let's just practice this. Raise your hand. Here we go. I know it's been a long day, but here we go. First and foremost, I've seen 27,000 people in almost 20 years of practice, and aging's not a bad thing, right? If you're over 40, what you know now compared to what you knew then is a valuable thing, yes or no? Yeah. Right? I love the fact in practice 20 years later that I know something. You know, I think when I got out and I was first in practice, I thought, you know, the people that just got out of school kind of have an advantage. We just learned a lot of new stuff, and these guys probably don't know it. Now that I'm in practice 20 years, I'm like, oh my goodness, I would never go see someone brand new. But that's why they call it practice. What if you could be, I had a friend of mine, his dad was 96, and on his 96th birthday, before he died like 6 months later, he was they went for a bike ride through the city of somewhere in California, up hills and down hills, and did a bike tour or something like this at 96. Do you hear me? Right? That's what you could be. You could play golf. You could. I have a hard time standing still. Is that okay? I mean, my head will explode if I stand still. But watch this. So if you could be that healthy though, and run around and feel good, and mind be sharp, and everything else, raise your hand if you'd like to be aged, if you will, and do that. Right? That's what we all want, right? But I can tell you the reality of actually aging backwards is 100% true. In fact, actually, it's one thing if I say it, right? Because I'm here to whatever, you know, teach and be inspiring, encouraging. But let me just give you a real good example. This is a good one by itself. Anybody seen this picture before? Yes. Yeah. Those people are the same age. What? And here's the thing: age we now know is not genetics. It's not choice. It's not luck. I'm the resident expert on longevity and aging. And I mean, I've done all the Blue Zone stuff, read all the books, seen all the things, but I can tell you it doesn't land home until it lands in your own house. Does that make sense? Yeah. Right? So my own mother, she was in her late 60s, and you know, who here, if your child became a medical doctor, might have a little bit of a hard time taking everything they said to heart, right? It's your kid, right? It's hard to not look at them like they're a 4-year-old with a runny nose on the carpet or something. So my mom literally had to hit rock bottom before she really called for help. Okay? Actually, it took me 8 years to get my mom to stop drinking Diet Cokes. She called me one day. She goes, David? She goes, I'm going to stop drinking Diet Cokes. 8 years later, after I've been telling her, right? I go, well, what's up, Mom? She goes, do you know I saw somebody on TV that was talking about me? I'm on TV to 90 million people once a month. And I've been saying that for 8 years. So anyway, but my mom was really in bad shape. My mom's a master origamist. Do you guys know what origami is? Where you fold it? Master. She goes to New York. She travels all over the place. She teaches everywhere. She couldn't fold paper anymore, and her arthritis was in her legs and her hands. And they're about to put her on Celebrex. You've heard the nightmares about Celebrex. So she calls me, says, what can I do? I said, okay, Mom, this is what we're going to do for 1 month. And I said, if you're not better, if we don't reverse this stuff in 1 month, I said, then you can just erase everything I ever tell you. And of course she was like, okay, I'll do everything, right? And of course she didn't know what she was in for. But, so my mom started doing what I told her to do. And and this is the secret I'm going to give you. Now, we teach 5 essentials, so not just the secret I'm going to give you today. Nutrition and detoxification. I knew I was in the right room when I walked in, and I talk about a lot of these things too, and I was like, ooh, yeah, that's right, awesome right there. So, but I'm going to give you a secret that nobody else usually has, and it's what really saved me. It's what really made a difference to my mom. But my mom did this for a month. She lost 22 pounds, which I forgot to tell her she was going to lose weight. And she called me one day. She goes, is this okay? I've lost like 18 pounds. I go, that's good enough. You're good. But in a month, in 1 month, 30 days, her arthritis was 90% gone. In about 2 months, it was basically gone. And then she started, her legs were really bad, but the arthritis was gone. So she started walking for just some exercise. And she's a little bit competitive. I don't know where I get it. But she would be out on a track, and someone would pass her, and she really can't handle that very well. And so she'd walk a little faster, right? Until people would run by her, and she'd go. Until finally a friend of her caught up with her, because she was going so fast, and she goes, you should go out with us. Of course, this girl's like 36. She goes, you should go out with us to this 5K run. She goes, we get free T-shirts and stuff all the time. My mom's never done that, and she loves to be part of the group. She goes, okay, I'll go with you. She did her first 5K, and she caught the bug, because guess what? How many people in their late 60s are doing all that? And so she got first place. It was just a little run. It was raining that day. There weren't many people there, but she got first place. And she got a T-shirt. And she came home. She goes, David, I got a free T-shirt. I said, well, did you pay for the ticket, Mom? She got a free T-shirt, and she got a medal, and she was hooked. For 6 years, every single, maybe 3 or 4 in 6 years, whether it's raining or snowing, she finds a organized 5K run, and she goes and does a 5K run. Until one day, she's done so, and she just got her 100th medal, by the way. Yeah, and her T-shirts are like everywhere. But a friend of hers that she goes with all the time said, you know what we ought to do? We ought to do a half marathon. So she went and did a half marathon, and actually she called me afterwards, and I go, Mom, you did awesome. And she goes, yeah, I felt so guilty. I go, what? She goes, you know, there was a full marathon and a half marathon, and the half marathon turns around. And she goes, I found myself turning around going, I should be in that group. And so she's actually training for a full marathon right now. My mom, this is 6 years after she started this, she is running 5 miles a day. Not walking, she's running 5 miles a day in her young mid-70s. She is spectacular. She does now duathlons. She's not triathlon in the water, but she does duathlons, so she's riding a bike too. And what the coolest thing for me teaching this to people is my mom every single Saturday morning sends me 2 selfies. The first selfie is really, really early when it's dark, and she's in the car driving to one of these runs, and she goes, then the next one is either someone taking a picture of her, or somebody is, or she's taking a picture of herself at the finish line, right? So who wants to see a picture of my mom? Do you see a picture of my mom?
Yeah.
This is a picture of my mom with her buddies. These are the oldest people in the run there. So that's my mom. She's got first place again. And she came for Easter, and I do CrossFit workouts, and she goes, David, I want to go do a CrossFit workout. And she does some boot camp classes. My mom killed it. My mom killed it at CrossFit. She was lifting weights, she was doing burpees, she was doing all this stuff. I looked at my friends that I work out with every day there, and I go, my mom's beating me. So what I'm telling you today, it's not just a theory, it works. And it doesn't just work for my mom, it works for everybody. It's including my family. I have 3 kids, my wife, all of us. And I want you guys to really, really get it. You guys ready?
Yes.
So here we go. We're going to dive in. Yes?
What kind of condition was she in before she started all this? I mean, was she sedentary? Was she active?
I would suggest to you she's always tried to be active, but over the 10 years prior, she's really gone downhill, and it was like aging. That's basically what it looked like. In fact, anybody in the world say that's just what happens when you get what? Old, and she could barely keep going, and her arthritis and all the rest. And so I'd say probably not good at all. And it was looking like she was going to be put on meds just like everybody else. And that's not going to happen on my watch to my mom or any of you if I've got the druthers of it. And so she just turned it around. And that's why I'm saying aging backwards is a real thing. It's not a make-believe thing. I'm thinking about Janice in my office, came in a walker, has had strokes, she's on all these meds. Just the other day she comes in, walker's gone, she's doing great, she's backing upright again. When she was like this, she came in, now she's like this, she's getting off her meds. I just had another lady, she's off of 15 medications a day, lost 40 pounds. Like, can you imagine not buying 15 medications a day? I mean, you're in a different tax bracket after that. All right, think about taxes, that's easy. So, okay, so here we go, let's jump right into it. I like science, I'm going to apologize, I'm a nerd, and I'm going to go fast. You guys ready? Yeah. There we go, drink from a fire hose. Lots of research here. So there's a guy, Dr. Leonard Hayflick. Say Hayflick. Hayflick. He did all these research. This is a while back. And what he did was a replication limit study. So he took human cells, put them in a petri dish, and what he said was every single time with the same genome strand, he could get a certain amount of replications. And eventually they'd hit a limit, and then they would die. His theory was that there was an aging clock internal to every human cell, and at some point in time, the clock is up, and it's time to stop. Right? But as people were reproducing this study, what they found was every time that they reproduced this, if they changed the temperature, if they changed the nutrition, you guys talk a lot about nutrition today? Change the nutrition even just a little bit, what ended up happening was the replication process would be marred slightly, and every single replication from there forward would actually be offset progressively until it would actually stop, not replicate again, the cell would die, and it would be before, way before, if you didn't change any of the factors. Does that make sense? So what they found, they did over and over again. The more things they changed negatively, the less replication the cell got before it died. What were they proving? They were proving it wasn't, the genes were exactly the same. All the sequences, all the DNA, exactly the same. The only difference was the what? The environment. Does that make sense? Now, I'm into epigenetics. Caroline Leaf's a good friend of mine. We met when we were on TV one time on TVN. But I can tell you, epigenetics is a real thing. Your genes do you know, if the genetic theory was true, you would have the propensity to have the disease that every single person in your lineage, every person ever had. It has to be false. And listen, I did 3 years of study on that one alone, and we did $2.3 billion worth of research under the Clinton administration. They disproved the disease genetic theory. And since I have mostly ladies here, which is a pretty cool thing for the guy to show up and it's all ladies. But the point is, the whole BRCA analysis thing for breast cancer, let me just give you a little bit of a $1 million check here. Do you know that if you have a positive BRCA analysis, you have about an 8% chance of having breast cancer, which is completely opposite what they say. That's the truth. You can have my house if I'm wrong. And she's taping that. But watch this. Guess if you have a negative BRCA analysis, you have a 5 to 8% chance of having breast cancer. And if you have a positive BRCA analysis right now, guess what they're trying to talk you into doing? Yes, mastectomy.
Because they're men.
Exactly. Well, I tell you. As a man, I kind of like those. I like to keep the ones in my house. Well, let's do this. So it's everybody say environment. It's environment. It's not your genetics. And I wish I had more time. I do a whole thing on aging, not with your genes. And so there's two problems with the old theory. Okay, the first one is that there are some people just don't age much, right? And by that understanding alone, the chronological clock and the biological clock are two separate things. And what it means is the chronological, or the click clock, tick tock, is not the end all be all with how you age. Can I get an amen from anybody?
Amen.
Right? It's all about a biological clock. Here's the second problem with the old theory of aging, and it's that all the presumptions and the processes that we previously considered that were natural aging, like blood pressure getting higher and higher as you age, or your vision getting worse, or different diseases, or whatever else, there are certain populations that don't experience that. And when you go around the world, the blue zones and stuff like this, you'll find that, listen, there are people in their 90s and over 100 that have the exact same blood pressure of all the youth in their 20s, right? And what happens, though, if you live in the sickest country in the face of planet Earth, which guess what that is?
Here.
That is here. Actually, you have a higher percentage chance of being sick, medically bankrupt, dying early, having joints cut out of you and replaced, and being whatever through medical care than any geographical location on the place of planet Earth that you don't go to the bathroom outside. Does that make sense? So it means that you should, if you're not a freak compared to, like, I'm a foodie and I'm a, weird guy. I go to restaurants and they're like, can you, like, I order, I'm the guy that you never want to take my order if you're a waitress. Right? And so I'm a freak. But you know what? In the sickest place in the world, freak is good. Can I get a?
Right.
Okay, so moving on. So those are the two processes that I see problems with aging. But there's something completely I want you to go through. Time is really not the enemy here. The enemy is the lack of your health, right? And how do most people judge their health? They just woke up today, how do I judge my health if I'm like the average person? How I feel, right? So I can bend down, touch my toes, run around, nothing hurts, like my mom, I can go run, and I want everybody to be like that. But does that necessarily mean that you're aging well, possibly? Maybe, but does it mean you're healthy?
No.
Do people get diagnosed with cancer every day of the week and feel great?
Yeah.
You better believe it. How about heart disease? People have heart attacks when they felt good just before that? Yeah, so health is not how you feel either. Health is one thing. It's not my theory, philosophy. It is what the World Health Organization says it is. Let's get on the same page about health so you get delivered. I know everybody wants to feel good, look great, no wrinkles, all the rest, but health is optimal physical, mental, emotional well-being, not just merely the absence of disease or symptoms. Does that make sense, right? Yeah. So it means this body is functioning great. That's health. It's how you function and how you heal. Raise your hand if you'd like to heal 100%. That's what I want you to get today, how you do that. But here's the thing. When I say healing, most people think a cut on my finger healing up, right? That's not what we're talking. When we talk about aging or reversing aging completely, really, which you can do, You talk about replacing old cells with new cells. Does that make sense? And that's not a little thing. That's a whole body thing. And it happens how often? Daily, every instant, every second. Great example of that is red blood cells. Now, just play with me a little bit. How many red blood cells did you replace yesterday? Give me a number. 50,000, a million, anybody else?
A billion.
All of them? I like that is an awesome answer. You would do good on some games, Jumper. Plus one? So watch this. So here we go. So here's the answer. 100 billion. You replaced 100 billion red blood cells yesterday. You have 1 trillion in circulation. And here's the crazy part. How do you know when you need to replace that exact 100 billion? Your body has to know exactly when. And not for this group of them, for every individual exacting red blood cell, there has to be a decision. Is it time or is it not time? So it means that internal to your body is an intelligence that's making, at least for that one decision and that one red blood cell, making the decision whether it's time for you to die and it's time to make a new blood cell. And make that, so there was at least 100 billion decisions made just for the red blood cells yesterday. Raise your hand and think that's fearfully and wonderfully made right there. Right? That's awesome, right? So aging is not based on the time, it's based on your body's ability to heal or not, right? And we want to make sure that you're healing. Raise your hand if you want to heal better. Just raise your hand if you want to be that. So how do we get that? This is the new definition. If you're taking notes, this is $1 million check. You're going to want to write this one down. Aging, the new definition of aging is a gradual loss of the body's ability to respond and adapt. Does that make sense? How do I know when my red blood cells need to change? How does my thyroid know I need to up my metabolism or change a factor or a vector? How do I know that the T3 versus T4 ratio needs to change instantly between right now and then I'm running for church in a little bit? How does it know it needs to change? Well, because it's adapting. Does it make sense? Your body has to adapt. But that's the new definition. If you get that, it'll take you the whole way. And here's the real cool part. Your body is constantly analyzing, looking for what it needs to do to adapt internally and what? Externally. Now, here's the two big questions. The first question is, how does it get information from the outside to determine how to adapt? Come on, somebody. It's like a biology class. What's that?
Skin.
Skin. So feeling, touch. Give me some other ones. Senses. So smell. Give me another one. Sight. Taste. Yeah, that's kind of weird. Wasn't it? Think about that for a minute. Anyway, 5 senses. 5 senses. Does that make sense? So we get external environment information from our 5 senses. For instance, if I walk over here and I hear a like this, okay? I hear that. I don't know about you. I feel like I'm pretty brave, except for snakes. That will scream like a little girl, and I'll go the exact opposite direction. Guess what happened to my blood pressure? Guess what happened to my heart rate? What happened to my stress hormones? How about epinephrine to make me run really fast? Right? That's all controlled by my body's ability to adapt. Now, that's the outside environment. But watch this. The next question is, how about the inside? How does your body get information from the inside of itself? Like, for instance, how do you, now listen, you don't know what's going on logically, right? Somebody tell me what the pH of your stomach is right now. You can't do that, right? But how does your body know exactly what pH it should be for an apple versus a small steak? It knows that because it gets an internal reading every instant of every second. Right? If it can make 100 billion decisions on just one thing, it's getting this information constantly, and it comes in through what system? Nervous system. It comes into the brain gets a reading, and what happens is, at a cellular level, we're talking about aging, right? So at a cellular level, let's say each one of you is a cell, all the way through this whole room, you're each a cell. And then in the back with the beautiful green shirt, raise your hand up. Every turn around, look at hi. Now, she's a cell, I'm the brain, and you've got a need, right? So let's say that she is a meniscus cell in the meniscus, and she's like, we need some more fluid down here to lubricate this joint, right? Now she's taught, she needs to tell who, because the buttocks or the thigh muscle, it doesn't care. It's got its own needs. Does that make sense? Right? So she's telling me, But I control the entirety of everything. So guess what I can do? I can send cells that way. I can increase a little bit of inflammation or just increase blood supply, and I'll cause a little bit of capillary effusion, and we'll create that right now, right? I meet her need because I can hear her need. Now watch this. Anybody been driving and your cell phone, there's a little garbled message on your cell phone, and you get every third word from the person that's talking to you, and you can kind of understand the conversation so you can get where you're going, or they could understand what you needed. But it could have not been that way, right? Does it make sense? So let's say you're talking to me, I get every third word, right? And you needed hydration, and I heard Asian, all right, so I'm assuming. Does it make sense? That's how aging begins to happen, because I start getting missed cells, misreadings, and then your body can't what? Adapt exactly the way it should, and guess what happens to the knee if your body can't adapt? Oh, okay, yeah. But watch this. I had a 33-year-old come to my office a while back who's got a bad knee, right? Didn't hurt it, but is limping on it. They're saying that he needs a meniscus surgery. And he went in, and the orthopedic surgeon said, well, it's just old age on that knee. And I looked at him. I was like, 33. I go, how old is your other knee? Like, if it was old age, wouldn't the other one, right? So it's not age. It's just dysfunction. Does that make sense, everybody? You with me? Is everybody with me? All right, so let's move forward here. Okay. There's a new definition, and this is awesome. There's so many great quotes I had trouble finding. I'm going to try and go fast here. But the quality of healing is directly proportional to the functional capacity of the central nervous system to send and receive messages. That is an MD, PhD. That is also 12 different Nobel Prizes won today that shows you when your nervous system, which is your body's ability to read and adapt, is functioning at its full capacity, guess what happens to aging? It doesn't happen like usual. And I don't think it's completely, I think we're not supposed to live forever, at least that's what the Bible says. So, but I think that you can really, I just want to live until it's time to die, right? I want to go, and like my friend's dad, 96, had an awesome day, went and played around with his buddies, went home that night, and guess what? Every organ failed at the exact same time, and he didn't wake up, right? But don't leave me here without a bladder for 10 years, or a colon or something. Does it make sense? Or whatever, right? So, now next. The question, what is the single most common way to decrease your functional capacity of that communication system that allows you to adapt? What's the single most common way? Anybody? Cut it off? I don't think that's as common. But it happens. It does. Japan is for it all the time. Choked off. Okay, so an interruption in the nerve. There you go. I like that. Good. Good. All right. So here's a good picture of it. This is one of my favorite pictures in the whole world. It's the nervous system. And you can see how everything is interconnected. I've pastored a church for 4 years, so I preach a little bit, so if I'm asking for amen, that's probably why. But this is a really fearfully and wonderfully made thing. At day 15, all you were was a brain and spinal cord, and after that, the nerves started growing out, and every single organ and tissue in your body is connected via a network of nerve supply that grew first, and then from a nerve you grew lungs, from a nerve you grew a heart, and then everything when you were born is connected. Make sense? Right? That's the network. What's the one thing that surrounds and protects that central nervous system every single day? It's like a body armor. Say it. Say it loud. Spine. Yeah, exactly right. Okay, of course I'm going to say that. She said I was a chiropractor. Here comes the self-point. Now listen, here's the thing. Listen, and I get it. I get it. Listen, I was the guy, I worked at the busiest emergency room in the United States, and every time I went to work, guess what I heard about chiropractors? Wax. Awesome. Stereo. And it was. And here I am a chiropractor now. How'd that happen? That's weird. But watch. This is how you check the nerve supply. Way before there's an issue. Right? What do you think the youngest patients in my office are? Newborn baby, which I'm usually at the hospital. What do you think my oldest patients are?
90-something.
90s. I haven't hit 100 yet, but I'm working on that. I got a couple that are headed that way. You're doing great. But listen, this is how you check it. Now let's talk about how this should look. Everybody look like this. Should be straight, and on the side view, you should have curves, right? Just like that says, 25-degree curves. Everybody kind of gets this. Most people don't get this understanding. And most people don't think there's a problem until something what? Hurts, right? But would you realize that right now, U.S. government and CDC says that if you've lost the curve in your neck, you die 15 years sooner? Within the next 5 years, there's talk, I don't know if it's going to happen, for insurance companies. You know how when you change insurance companies, you got to get the EKG and the testing, whatever? They're looking at doing a lateral cervical x-ray to see if you got a curve in your neck, because if your spine is jacked up at all or you lost the curve, the likelihood that you will be diseased or have health issues is so prominent that they want to hedge their bet and increase your premiums so that you, and listen, but it's just that simple. The people that have great spines have great nerve supply, and guess how they heal? Very well. These people are on meds, they're doing great, just like my mom, right? Now, next, everybody take your hand, go like this. Everybody like this. Now take the other hand, and just with a curve in this hand, feel the skin. Just feel that skin right there. Feel that's kind of relaxed when you got a curve right there? Now, get rid of the curve, straighten it out. What happened to the skin? Tightens up. Guess what happens to your spine when you lose the curves? It stretches and tightens. It actually gets longer, and then the spinal cord, which is inside your spine, has to what? It has to stretch. Now, raise your hand if you think that a stretched out, strangulated spinal cord might not function as well as one that's not. Right? Here's the crazy part. I'm also a neurologist, clinical functional neurologist. We know now that if your spinal cord has any tethering at all, stretching, that it decreases your life potential and affects every physiological function starting right now. You know that? Right? That's pretty crazy, right? So move forward. This lady here has, should have a curve, right? Should have a curve. Can you see how it's backwards right there? You see that? It's backwards. She came to the office. She couldn't lose weight. She's tried everything. Weight Watchers, Sugar Busters, literally about everything in the world. And she'd lose 5 or 10 pounds. Anybody done anything where you lost 5 or 10 pounds and it stopped and then you got frustrated? I'm not the only one, seriously? Raise your hand, right? I was a pastor, so it's just, we're going to keep it honest. But basically, she tried everything. She came to the office, and guess what organ comes from right here? It's an endocrine organ right there. Thyroid. Now, if her neck doesn't have a curve in it and it's stretching it out, at least segmentally from here, those nerves that go to the thyroid can't function 100% yes or no. But every time she goes to the doctor, she gets her thyroid, because she knows, like she does PubMed, I know I have a thyroid issue. And she goes in, and her levels are always within normal limits, right? Anybody done that before? Yeah. I know I have a thyroid issue, right? Please give me the thyroid. But watch, we start getting her adjusted, and guess what? She comes in the office, and about every week or two, she comes in the office, she's like, I've lost another 6 pounds, I've lost another 4 pounds, I've lost another 8 pounds. 68 pounds later, right? 68 pounds later, we take an x-ray of her, and what do you see? There's a difference. Now, if you've ever heard of chiropractors, what you're usually hearing, 9 out of 10 chiropractors will crack. It's for symptom relief. And listen, it's a much safer way about symptom relief, for sure, I guarantee you. But what we do is a complete different thing. It's not, I don't want you to hurt, but I care a whole lot more about how you're functioning, because if you're functioning great, guess what's going to happen to that pain that you came in with? It's going to heal up, not because I did it, because who did it? Because you did it. Exactly. Everybody say me. Me. That's where responsibility starts. Okay, so let me give you an outside example. This girl comes in. She is 15, weight loss resistance, metabolic syndrome, and she has lost over 70 pounds. You see that? And she's tried every diet. She's done everything. Guess what's different? Her nerve supply is working correctly. And let me tell you something. For a 15-year-old junior high, do you think that's a life changer? That's a life changer right there. Now, do you think she's aging better now? Oh, man, that's a good one for aging right there. Now I can show you an age teeth right there. That's nice. All right, so how about this one? This is a 32-year-old girl. Came to the office. I use this sometimes. It's been several years since she started. She came in, and she's never had a female cycle, right? High school, college, which, you know, when you're going through high school and college and you have a cycle, you're like, but when you get married and you want to have kids, not so nice, right? So she can't find what's going on. She had the diagnosis with endometriosis and polycystic ovarian syndrome, and they want to do what? Take everything out. Yeah. And so her husband's Ryan. They come in, and the problem with having a health issue, if people know you have a health issue, everybody's got a solution, don't they? Everybody's got a new nutritional product, or this guy that does this weird energy work, or an acupuncturist, or whatever else. And so guess what they've tried? Everything. They've tried just everything. And so they come in, and this may be the rudest man that's ever been in my office. But I understand why he's rude. You know, he thinks I'm trying to sell him. In fact, I showed him his x-ray of his wife, and he goes, you're telling me that small little curvature in her low back is keeping her female organs from working right. But what's the research show? If it doesn't have a full nerve supply, it's not working right. To which I said, we're going to fix it. Guess who else I'm going to check? You. Yeah. So this is an 8-degree curve. You see that? It only takes 3 degrees. So we started adjusting her. What's the whole purpose? She didn't come in with low back pain. But it's to what? Structurally correct the spine. Is everybody with me?
Right.
So we go a couple months. Right there, it's from 8 down to 4. Do you see that? Right? That's kind of cool. Go another couple months. Right there, down to 1. How about that? Guess what happened 2 months after this x-ray? Yeah, which actually is a real funny story. We see a couple hundred people in the office. We are packed. There's like 40 people sitting there waiting to get adjusted. Did I tell you this? So she comes in. She's so excited to tell me, right? She's pregnant. She comes in. She's telling me. She gets all excited again. She runs out. There's everybody in the office. She goes, Dr. David got me pregnant. I jump out there. Oh, no, I didn't. She has 2 kids now, by the way, which would never have been there before, except for she got a secret, which shouldn't be a secret, by the way, that your body is awesome to heal itself and keep you from aging as long as it's functionally and fully, optimally healthy and adaptive. Make sense? Right? So moving forward here, how about this one? What's a subluxation? Subluxation is just movement of the spine, right? That puts pressure on the nerve supply. Any of those changes. Subluxation of vertebra occur in all parts of the spine. I love this quote. When the dislocation is so slight as not to affect the spinal cord or cause what? Any pain or discomfort, watch this, it will still produce disturbances in the spinal nerves passing through the spine, which means you don't have to what? Hurt. Journal of Neurology, January 99, where's the nerve coming out? It says that by the time that you have a symptom, ladies, or gentlemen, by the time I don't know if it's too late, but you have to lose 40% function in a tissue, cell, or organ before you'll ever what? Feel it. And then most people, they have a symptom. Where do they go? They go to the doctor, exactly. Now look at this. This is cool. Hyper or hypo-functioning nerves, take it all the way down, basically disturb the homeostasis. What's homeostasis mean? Stability, harmony, everything's working together. I'm in the right place. Everything's doing what it should be doing of cells, tissues, and organs, which means it actually causes what? Disease, aging. That's what we're talking about today. Exactly. How about this one? This is Dr. Margaret Sperry. Is that awesome? I mean, I could not put like a guy movie thing in there. I got a picture like, oh, I'm using that. That is bad. But watch this. This is probably one of my favorite Nobel Prize winning scientists ever. This guy is spectacular. What he found was, everybody look here. What he found was, your brain is a battery, basically. Does it make sense? This brain uses the energy to make your heart beat and to make to activate the muscles in your digestive tract to digest food and move it through. Does it make sense? It uses energy to do that. But 90% of the energy that your brain uses is actually to keep you in a gravitational field, to keep you upright and balanced at 90%. Does that make sense? And what he found and won a Nobel Prize was for 2 things, not just that. The first one is that 90% of the energy output is just to keep you in stationary in a field of gravity and not falling down, which is a pretty cool thing, right? But what he said was postural disturbances. So if your neighbor has a high ear or a head shift or a high shoulder, ladies, keep switching your purses because the purse will cause a high shoulder like this, which is linked to breast cancer. But if you have a hip shift to one side, all of these different things, guess what? The postural disturbance makes more energy for your body, your brain to use to keep you upright in a gravitational field. So there's less energy, which is only 10%, less energy for use for thinking, metabolism, which you think that might be important, metabolism, or healing. Does that make sense? Yeah. So what happens is, guess what? The more disturbed you are, the more you end up, quote, aging, which everybody thinks this is normal, just to age like this. Eventually you don't have any blood anymore because you're just down like this, right? Most people think that's normal. What happens is the battery begins to get what? Drained. You drain the battery. And just like anything else, if I got a remote control car and eventually it's going to stop. And that's aging. Is everybody with me? Did anybody get an aha at all? Yeah. Right? Here's a crazy part. Watch this. The other thing he got a Nobel Prize for, he's found that 95% of the charging of this battery is not the food, it's not the whatever, positive things, thinking is a huge part of that. I actually did 7 years of cognitive psychology. I love it. What he said, though, was 95% of the activation, potentiation, if you will, to keep the brain active and charged up like a battery, 95% comes from, guess what? Your spine. 95%. He said this movement, you're moving and grooving and moving around, your spinal movement actually is 95% of what charges your brain up. It's like a windmill that produces electricity. Your spine. But when your spine starts getting bad or out of alignment, even if it doesn't hurt, it doesn't charge the what? The brain and the battery, and they gave the guy a Nobel Prize. Can you see I kind of like that a little bit right there? It's like my sweet part of all studies right there. Have to use that. But look, they teach us in every single medical school now. The Journal of the American Medical Association says that deviations from postural, from back and forward, left to right, the deviations cause what? Everything. You name it. Just everything. If I told you how many, I've had half a dozen people who were blind get their sight back with one adjustment. Same thing with hearing. I haven't seen a diabetic not turn their diabetes around in years, completely off of insulin shots. And you know, I've never seen a child with asthma to this day. I don't think anything's 100%, but it is to this point. I've never seen a kid with asthma to this day still have asthma. And yet 25% of the kids in schools right now will go on playgrounds next week, and guess what will be in their pocket? Inhalers, right? But not if their bodies are functioning and feeling the way they should. But nobody's looking for the cause, they're looking for the symptom, and then when they go to the doctor, guess what they get treated? It's the symptom.
Like babies with colic, you do babies with
I
colic.
just had that the other day. Little baby colicky, and listen, here was the crazy part. They brought this baby in, screaming. Anybody, raise your hand if you've had a colicky baby. Thank you, Jesus, for getting you through that. Look at it, like, it was that one right there. Now, here's the thing. Comes in, baby screaming, crying. I mean, like, I'm not talking about, I'm talking about full on, like someone's cutting it. And so, adjust the baby and look what's going on. Feel, I mean, very subluxated, probably happened when? Birth, right? Which is 80% of all the subluxations happen at birth. Gutman won a Nobel Prize for that, or was that for one? So subluxation happened at birth. I feel this little baby's atlas, the first bone in her neck, and she is so subluxated, it feels like it's sticking out of her ear. Now, first of all, am I going to adjust this baby as hardly? No! In fact, you can't even hardly tell them adjustment, so it's just like this and that. And all of a sudden, this baby was screaming, and he goes, and then white leg gets better. Mom and Dad both lean in. Like, first of all, did you hurt her?
Yeah, right.
And then second of all said, don't touch it. That's what the pediatrician walked by every single day that baby was in the office. That. And I can almost guarantee you, every single person here, when you had your yearly or when you were at your doctor's lab for a checkup, they took your blood, they did your blood pressure, looked in your throat, listened to your heart and your lungs, and they never checked what? Spine. Or most importantly, the nervous system, which is how you do that. You check the spine. Does that make sense? Do you think that you could ever tell exactly how healthy you were unless somebody checked your nervous system functionally? And you're learning right now. Guess what the answer is? You can't. Exactly. So, moving forward. What everybody wants is health at 100%. Raise your hand if you want that. So that would be healthy, yes? What's 0% function, no function at all in your body? Yeah, perfect. Let's put a D over there. Perfect. But when do you, what did I say? When do you find out, when you have your first symptom, how much function do you have to lose? You have to lose 40%, so you got to be down to 60% function. Now what, again, what do most people do when they have the symptom of whatever? They go where? The doctor. What does he do or she do? Give you medication. Now, watch this. If all I do is give you medication, blood pressure, cholesterol, blood sugar irregularities, thyroid problems, acid reflux, fungal infections, sleeping problems, depression, if all I do is give you the medication, which way, watch this, have I guaranteed you to go on this chart if I don't fix the problem? The problem gets worse, and I get more and more dysfunctions, which, again, you won't feel until it has an outright representation, which could be something. But every time you have a new representation, I can't sleep, my thyroid is out of bounds, or whatever, you go back, and now they have a solution for that via what? Another medication. It turns into that, right? So let's look at another way to look at this timeline. This is another way to look at the timeline. So everybody look here. Do you see the good curve in the neck? Look at the spinal cord here. See how it's wavy and relaxed? Each one of these is about 10 years. And you can see how you lose the curve and it destroys the spine. You see that? But everybody in the world thinks that this is caused by what? Aging! I actually had 2 doctors from UT Southwest come in. He's the head of infectious disease control. And they both sat there like this. And she came to me after, she goes, we're taught that it's just natural aging. This is just what we're taught. And let me ask you the question. This is what she got. If you could keep a spine that looks like this, and there's not more pressure on one area than the others, how long should your spine last? Longer than you, right? And all the organs, when they fail, should fail when? All at the same time. But watch this. If you have a healthy spine, then you also have a healthy what?
Mind.
Nervous system and mind, right? Which is why 9 out of 10 people get off their antidepressants in my office. But watch, if you have a healthy spine and you have a healthy nervous system and mind, then what has to be healthy connected to it? Anybody have those people you love to hate that never did anything right and they're still doing really well? I have an uncle, he's 94 years old. I love him. But he's 94, he smokes no-filter Camels, drinks Jack Daniels every day, hasn't eaten anything green since the 70s, and guess what? The guy's 94, he's playing golf, he's single, he's a womanizer at the lodge or whatever he is. It's like you can't kill him. Anybody know one of those? Why is that? That is so frustrating. But here's the thing, it's because his body is working so well that guess what? It doesn't matter. He still does well, he still does great, and he heals from it. It doesn't kill him. Does it make sense? Right? That's the way you want to be. I'm not advocating that lifestyle. I had somebody the other day, I was doing a workshop and I said that and they were like, ooh, I like this program. That's not the program. So, last slide. I love this. This guy won a Nobel Prize. It says the beginning of the disease process begins with postural distortions. Here's the crazy part. If you guys don't do it, but if you stood up like on the next break or when you're done today, for you or your kids, I dare you to stand up, close your eyes, move around a little bit, and then come to neutral. You'll probably come in like this, or like that, or like this, or possibly like that. Okay? Or like this. Make sense? If there's any of that, guess what that means? It means there's already pressure.